Listen to me, and listen to me carefully. What I am about to reveal will disturb you. It will shake the very foundations of everything you've been conditioned to believe about yourself, your potential and your place in this world. But disturbance is precisely what your complacent mind requires. For decades, the minds of great achievers across every continent, in every epoch have been profoundly studied, dissected their thoughts, analyzed their habits, and decoded the secret principles that transformed ordinary individuals into titans of industry, leaders of nations, and architects of civilizations. And through this exhaustive research, 7 immutable laws that govern all human achievement have been discovered. But here's what will make you uncomfortable. These same laws that created every fortune in America, every empire in Europe, every technological marvel in Asia, these very same laws originated in the minds of your African ancestors. Yes, here in Africa. They built the pyramids that still confound engineers today. They established the universities of Timbuktu when Europe was still covered in darkness. They created mathematical systems which were later used to launch rockets to the stars. Yet somehow, you've been convinced that these laws don't apply to you. That greatness is reserved for others. That you should be grateful for scraps from tables you could build yourself. This ends today. Welcome to Timbuktu Lectures, a production of Kilimanjaro News Network, the authentic voice of Africa. We studied the lives of over 25,000 men and women who achieved extraordinary success, and I can tell you this with mathematical certainty. Every single one from Nelson Mandela, Aliko Dangote, Mo Ibrahim to Barack Obama understood and applied the 7 immutable laws of mental sovereignty. That made the difference between them and the masses who live lives of quiet desperation. They understood these laws that I'm about to reveal to you. Pay attention. The first law, the burning desire that consumes all obstacles. The psychology of unstoppable want. That desire which is soul-consuming. The desire that leads you to go on despite failures. That desire which enables you to visualize, smell, feel and literally see the finished product. There exists a chasm, wide as the Atlantic, deep as the Mariana Trench, between wanting something and possessing a burning desire for it. Want is weak. Want is passive. Want accepts no as an answer. But burning desire? Burning desire transforms men into forces of nature. It is this desire that we are talking about. Consider Aliko Dangote, born into modest circumstances in Kano, Nigeria. At age 20, with a mere $3,000 loan from his uncle, most would have seen limitations. But Dangote possessed definiteness of purpose, not merely the desire to be comfortable, but the burning, all-consuming obsession to build Africa's industrial backbone. When critics laughed at his audacious plan to construct the world's largest single-train refinery, when banks rejected his proposals, when competitors predicted his failure, what sustained him? Not hope. Not positive thinking. But an unquenchable fire in his belly that refused to accept Africa's perpetual dependence on imported fuel. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Dangote didn't succeed despite being African. He succeeded because he refused to accept the mental limitations imposed upon Africans. His desire burned so intensely that it literally reshaped the continental economy. You too can do the same. The Mandela resilience, when desire transcends circumstance. Now let's examine Nelson Mandela's transformation from prisoner to president. For 27 years, yes 27 years, the South African apartheid system attempted to break his spirit. They confined his body, censored his words, and tried to bury his dreams in the limestone quarries of Robben Island. But here's what his captors never understood. They had imprisoned the man, not the burning desire. In that cell, Mandela's desire for a free South Africa didn't diminish, it intensified. It became so powerful that it began to influence his guards, his fellow prisoners, and eventually, the entire world. The first law demands this of you. Your desire must become so intense, so all-consuming, that obstacles become mere stepping stones. When your why becomes bigger than your excuses, when your vision becomes clearer than your circumstances, when your future becomes more real than your present, then, and only then, do you access the power that moves mountains. This is also true of Barack Obama. The Obama phenomenon. rising from the ashes of rejection. Barack Obama understood this principle profoundly. In 2000, fresh from his humiliating defeat in the Democratic primary for Illinois' 1st Congressional District, where he lost by a crushing 2-1 margin to incumbent Bobby Rush, most politicians would have retreated. The defeat was so complete that Obama's campaign debt exceeded $100,000, straining his marriage to Michelle and forcing the young family to live on her salary alone. The loss stung deeper because Rush had painted Obama as an outsider, questioning his authenticity as a representative of Chicago's South Side. Obama returned home that night, tail between his legs, wondering if his political career was over before it truly began. But here's where the burning desire revealed itself. Instead of accepting defeat, Obama's failure ignited something deeper. He didn't just want political success, he needed to prove that a skinny kid with a funny name could represent the hopes of forgotten Americans. That desire, born from the ashes of humiliation, would eventually carry him to the US Senate and ultimately to the presidency. Here is your uncomfortable assignment. I want you to identify the one thing you want so badly that you're willing to endure any humiliation, overcome any obstacle, and persist through any failure to achieve it. If you can't identify that burning desire, you're not ready for greatness. Now let's move to the second law, faith as the visualizer of burning desire. Beyond belief, the science of mental visualization. Faith, as I define it here, has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with the scientific principle of mental visualization. It is the ability to see your desires as already achieved, to feel the emotions of success before success arrives, to think and act from the end result rather than from your current circumstances. This is not mere positive thinking is for amateurs. This is the systematic conditioning of your subconscious mind to accept your goals as inevitable realities. It is a matter of your decision. When you make that decision, the universe has no choice but to obey it. It does not depend on belief. It depends on unflinching discipline and repetition. That kind of stubbornness which led Mo Ibrahim to keep going despite being rejected by investors 47 times. That desire which convinced Roger Miller that at age 38 he can change the trajectory of African and world football. That desire which convinced Tony Elumelu with no banking experience that he can own one of Africa's biggest banking empires. Strong and persistent desires leads to the power of vivid visualization. Wangari Maathai saw forests where others saw desert. When Wangari Maathai launched the Green Belt movement in 1977, Kenya was facing severe deforestation, soil erosion, and environmental degradation. The government called her ideas impractical. Male politicians dismissed her as a misguided woman. International observers questioned whether rural Kenyan women could possibly understand complex environmental issues. But Maathai possessed what is called faith consciousness. She could see, with crystal clarity, millions of trees covering Kenya's hills. She could visualize women gaining economic independence through environmental stewardship. She could envision a future where Africa led the world in sustainable development. This wasn't blind optimism, it was strategic faith. Maathai acted as if her vision was inevitable. She spoke with the authority of someone who had already succeeded. She planned with the confidence of someone whose methods were proven. And gradually, reality began to conform to her unwavering mental picture. The result? Over 51 million trees planted, 30,000 women trained and employed, international recognition culminating in the Nobel Peace Prize, and a completely transformed environmental landscape across East Africa. Let's take another look at Obama. Obama's faith strategy, the audacity of believing before becoming. After Obama's congressional defeat in 2000, he faced another test of faith. By 2002, as he prepared for his US Senate run, America was reeling from 9/11. The country had turned inward, suspicious of anything foreign or unfamiliar. Here was a man named Barack Hussein Obama, a name that evoked both the leader of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, and the 9/11 mastermind Osama bin Laden. Political consultants advised him to use his middle initial only. Friends suggested he might wait for a better time. The established Democratic candidates, Blair Hull, a multimillionaire businessman, and Dan Hines, the Illinois state controller from a political dynasty, possessed every traditional advantage: money, name recognition, institutional support, and most importantly, names that didn't require explanation to suspicious voters. But Obama had studied the second law intuitively. In his mind, he wasn't the underdog with the problematic name, he was the future senator from Illinois. When he delivered his keynote address at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, months before winning his Senate race, he spoke with the faith consciousness of someone who already belonged on the national stage. Here's the critical insight: Obama's faith wasn't passive hope, it was active preparation. He studied Senate procedures before becoming a senator. He built relationships with future colleagues before earning their votes. He prepared for greatness while others prepared for failure. Listen carefully. I'm about to present you with a powerful formula for success. If you follow these steps, you are bound to succeed. It is tried and tested, used by all leaders who have achieved great success. Step 1. Definite mental picture. Create a detailed, specific image of exactly what you want to achieve. Not vague wishes, but precise, measurable outcomes. If you want to build a business, see the exact location, the specific products, the precise revenue figures. Make it so real that your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between the visualization and reality. Step 2. Emotional intensification. Attach powerful emotions to your mental picture. Feel the pride of achievement, the satisfaction of impact, the joy of financial freedom. Your subconscious mind responds to emotion, not logic. The stronger the emotional charge, the more powerful the faith consciousness becomes. Step 3. Repetitive affirmation. This is where most people fail. They visualize sporadically, emotionally weakly, and quit when results don't appear immediately. Real faith requires daily, repeated programming of your mental faculties. Morning visualization. Evening affirmation. Constant internal dialogue consistent with your desired outcomes. Here is an uncomfortable challenge for you. Your faith must be stronger than your circumstances. When bank accounts show zero, you must think like a millionaire. When others doubt your abilities, you must act with unwavering confidence. When obstacles appear insurmountable, you must proceed with the certainty of eventual victory. The third law, autosuggestion, the medium for influencing the subconscious mind. This law is very powerful. Pay close attention. Every human being engages in approximately 60,000 thoughts per day. For most people, these thoughts run wild, uncontrolled, undirected, and destructively negative. But the masters of achievement understand a profound secret: your subconscious mind accepts whatever thoughts you repeatedly feed it, whether positive or negative, true or false, helpful or harmful. Autosuggestion is simply the practice of deliberately controlling your internal dialogue, systematically programming your subconscious mind with thoughts and beliefs that support your definite major purpose. The Dangote method, programming for billions. Dangote didn't become Africa's richest man by accident or luck. From his early 20s, he practiced a form of autosuggestion that would have impressed Napoleon Hill himself. Every morning, before reviewing business reports or attending meetings, Dangote would spend time visualizing his industrial empire expanding across Africa. But here's the sophisticated part: he didn't just daydream about wealth. He programmed specific outcomes into his subconscious mind. I see myself opening the largest cement plant in Nigeria. I visualize creating 100,000 jobs for African youth. I am building the infrastructure that will transform this continent. When Dangote announced his plan to build a $19 billion oil refinery, the largest single-train refinery in the world, critics called it impossible. Nigeria had tried and failed to achieve refining capacity for decades. But Dangote's subconscious mind had already accepted this outcome as inevitable. He had programmed himself for success at this scale. The result? The Dangote refinery, completed in 2023, processes 650,000 barrels per day and has the capacity to meet 100% of Nigeria's refined product requirements with surplus for export. Mo Ibrahim's mental conditioning, from engineer to empire builder. Mohammed Mo Ibrahim provides another masterclass in autosuggestion. Born in Sudan, educated in Egypt and the UK, Ibrahim could have settled for a comfortable career as a telecommunications engineer. Instead, he programmed his mind for something unprecedented, building Africa's first multinational telecommunications empire. In the 1990s, when mobile phone penetration in Africa was less than 1%, Ibrahim didn't see market limitations, he saw unlimited potential. Through daily mental conditioning, he programmed his subconscious to accept that Africans deserved world-class telecommunications infrastructure. Ibrahim's auto-suggestion routine was methodical. Morning affirmations about connecting every African to the global economy. Visualization exercises seeing mobile towers across the continent. Evening reflection on the social impact of universal communication access. When he sold Keltel to Zayin for $3.4 billion in 2005, Ibrahim had created one of the largest exits in African business history. But the money wasn't the real victory, it was proof that his mental programming had reshaped reality. You too possess these God's-given gifts. It is your birthright. Obama's subconscious programming, preparing for the presidency. Obama's mastery of auto-suggestion became evident during his 2008 presidential campaign. Here was a first-term senator with limited executive experience, running against Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, senator, with massive institutional support in the primary, and later against John McCain, decorated war hero, senior senator, in the general election. But Obama had been programming his subconscious for presidential leadership years before announcing his candidacy. Close aides reported that Obama would often say, not boastfully but matter-of-factly, "When I'm president." Or as president, I would. He spoke about Oval Office decisions with the familiarity of someone who had already made them. This wasn't arrogance, it was sophisticated auto-suggestion. By consistently programming his mind with presidential scenarios, Obama's subconscious began generating the confidence, composure, and strategic thinking necessary for the role. During the 2008 financial crisis, while his opponents appeared reactive and uncertain, Obama projected the calm authority of someone who had already mentally prepared for such challenges. His subconscious mind, programmed for presidential leadership, naturally generated presidential responses. We have talked about Mo Ibrahim, Aliko Dangote, and Barack Obama. Now I have to challenge you. I must be direct with you. What are you waiting for? What is stopping you? Here is the truth. You've been lied to. From the moment you could walk, talk, and dream, they programmed you. Taught you to wait for the savior to arrive from Europe, from America, from China. But here is the truth, and it will burn at first. No one is coming. You are the savior you've been waiting for. Yes, you. The person staring back at you in the mirror. Mo Ibrahim didn't wait. Aliko Dangote didn't beg. They made their billions right here, on African soil, with African hands, facing African problems and building African solutions. Now look at yourself. You are staring at the next African billionaire. If you decide. That's it. Not if the world changes. Not if your country gets better. If you decide. Because the moment you do, truly decide, the universe will bend. It will shift. It will get to work. As it did for Mo Ibrahim, as it did for Aliko Dangote. And if you are serious, not curious, not dabbling, not hoping, serious about changing your life, then you must begin with one thing. The auto-suggestion for African achievers. This is not a game. This is the war for your mind, and the victory starts when you tell it, every single day. Are you ready? Here is your routine. Morning ritual. Spend about 15 minutes. 1. State your definite major purpose aloud with emotion and conviction. 2. Visualize yourself having already achieved your goal. 3. Feel the emotions of success, pride, satisfaction, impact. 4. Affirm your specific capabilities. I have the intelligence to. I possess the persistence to. I am worthy of. Midday reinforcement. Spend about 5 minutes. 1. Brief mental review of your major purpose. 2. Quick visualization of your desired outcome. 3. Emotional connection to your why. Evening programming, spend about 10 minutes. 1. Review the day's actions in light of your major purpose. 2. Identify lessons learned and improvements needed. 3. Visualize tomorrow's success before sleep. Here's an uncomfortable truth for you. Most people unknowingly program their subconscious minds for failure. They repeatedly tell themselves, I can't afford it, I'm not qualified, that's not realistic for someone like me. Your subconscious accepts these negative programs and creates supporting evidence. Your assignment: monitor your self-talk for 1 week. Every negative statement about your capabilities must be immediately replaced with a positive affirmation. If you catch yourself saying, I can't, immediately follow with, I will find a way. If you think I'm not smart enough, replace it with, I am learning and growing every day. The fourth law, specialized knowledge, the foundation of personal power. The dangerous myth of general education. Here's an uncomfortable truth that will shatter your educational assumptions. The traditional education system was not designed to create wealth, leadership, or innovation. It was designed to create employees, compliant, predictable, and dependent on systems controlled by others. Research of 500 millionaires revealed that formal education often hindered rather than helped wealth creation. Why? Because schools teach you to memorize information rather than apply knowledge, to follow instructions rather than create solutions, to seek security rather than embrace calculated risks. But specialized knowledge, focused, practical, immediately applicable knowledge, is the foundation of all personal power. Consider Strive Mosiliwa, founder of Econet Wireless, who transformed from a modest engineering background into one of Africa's most successful telecommunications entrepreneurs. Mosiliwa's success didn't come from his electrical engineering degree, it came from his specialized knowledge of telecommunications regulation, market entry strategies, and African consumer behavior. When Mosiliwa decided to enter Zimbabwe's telecommunications market in the 1990s, the government maintained a monopoly through the state-owned Posts and Telecommunications Corporation. Most entrepreneurs would have accepted this as an insurmountable barrier. But Mosiliwa invested 3 years studying telecommunications law, regulatory precedents, and constitutional rights. He didn't just learn, he specialized. He became one of the most knowledgeable individuals in Africa regarding telecommunications regulation. This specialized knowledge enabled him to challenge the government monopoly in court, a battle that lasted 5 years but ultimately opened Zimbabwe's telecommunications market. The result? Econet Wireless now operates in over 20 African countries, serves more than 13 million customers, and has created thousands of jobs across the continent. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's ascension to Director General of the World Trade Organization, the first African and first woman to hold this position, exemplifies the power of specialized knowledge on the global stage. Okonjo-Iweala didn't achieve this historic appointment through general competence or good intentions. She systematically developed specialized knowledge in 3 critical areas. 1. International finance and development, through her 25-year career at the World Bank. 2. Economic policy implementation, as Nigeria's finance minister during 2 different administrations. 3. Global trade dynamics, through academic research and consulting work. When 164 WTO member countries needed to select their next leader in 2020, they didn't choose based on nationality, gender, or political connections. They chose based on specialized knowledge. Okonjo-Iweala possessed the specific expertise required to navigate complex international trade disputes, manage a $200 million annual budget, and lead an organization with 600+ staff members. Her specialized knowledge formula: deep expertise in core competency, development economics. Practical implementation experience, ministerial positions. Global perspective and relationships, international consulting. Continuous learning and adaptation, academic engagement throughout her career. Obama's rapid political ascension from community organizer to president demonstrates sophisticated application of the specialized knowledge principle. Most politicians develop expertise in one area, local politics, business, or law. Obama strategically developed specialized knowledge in 4 interconnected areas. 1. Constitutional law. Obama's expertise as a constitutional law professor wasn't academic luxury, it was strategic preparation. Understanding constitutional principles enabled him to frame political arguments in terms of fundamental American values, making his positions appear principled rather than partisan. 2. Community organizing. His experience organizing communities on Chicago's South Side provided specialized knowledge of grassroots mobilization, coalition building, and transforming individual grievances into collective action, skills that proved invaluable during his presidential campaigns. 3. Legislative process. Obama's time in both the Illinois State Senate and U.S. Senate gave him specialized knowledge of how laws are actually made, amended, and implemented, knowledge that enabled him to pass significant legislation where others failed. 4. Media and communication. Obama developed specialized knowledge of modern media dynamics, understanding how to communicate complex ideas through multiple channels simultaneously, traditional media, digital platforms, and grassroots networks. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, Obama's specialized knowledge enabled him to speak authoritatively about both the constitutional powers of the presidency and the legislative mechanisms needed for economic recovery. His expertise wasn't broad, it was strategically deep in areas directly relevant to presidential leadership. The specialized knowledge blueprint for African excellence. Step 1. Identify your economic value proposition. What specific problem can you solve better than 90% of other people? This becomes your core area of specialization. Don't choose what interests you, choose what the market desperately needs and compensates highly. Step 2. Develop uncommon expertise. Commit to becoming among the top 10% of practitioners in your chosen specialty. This requires daily study and practice, seeking mentorship from current experts, practical application of knowledge through projects or consulting, continuous updating as your field evolves. Step 3. Document and communicate your expertise. Specialized knowledge without communication is useless. You must write articles demonstrating your expertise, speak at conferences and industry events, consult with organizations facing challenges in your area, build a reputation as the go-to expert in your specialty. Step 4. Apply knowledge to create economic value. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. Transform your expertise into products or services that solve specific problems. Consulting relationships with organizations needing your expertise. Investment opportunities where your knowledge provides competitive advantage. Leadership positions where your expertise creates organizational value. The uncomfortable challenge. You cannot specialize in everything. You must choose one primary area of expertise and develop world-class competence. This means saying no to opportunities outside your specialty, even when they appear attractive. Most people fail because they try to be good at many things instead of exceptional at one thing. The fifth law, imagination, the workshop of the mind. The two forms of imagination that create fortunes. There are two distinct types of imagination, and understanding the difference will determine whether you become a follower or a leader, an employee or an entrepreneur, a consumer or a creator. Synthetic imagination takes existing ideas, concepts, or plans and rearranges them into new combinations. This is useful, but it's not the source of true innovation or breakthrough success. Creative imagination taps into the infinite intelligence of the universe, receiving flashes of inspiration that seem to come from nowhere but create entirely new realities. This is where fortunes are born, empires are built, and civilizations are transformed. When Richard Branson launched Virgin Atlantic in 1984, the airline industry was dominated by established players with decades of experience, massive capital reserves, and government protection. British Airways, Pan Am, and TWA controlled transatlantic routes with seeming invincibility. Most business consultants would have advised against entering this market. The barriers were too high, the competition too entrenched, the capital requirements too massive. But Branson's creative imagination saw what others missed. Air travel had become a soulless, bureaucratic experience that treated passengers as cargo rather than customers. Branson didn't just start another airline, he reimagined what air travel could become. Massage therapists, bars, entertainment systems, and customer service that treated flying as pleasure rather than necessity. His creative imagination transformed a commodity service into a premium experience. The result? Virgin Atlantic challenged British Airways' monopoly, forced industry-wide service improvements, and built a multi-billion-dollar brand that expanded into multiple industries. Patrice Motsepe became South Africa's first black billionaire not through luck or government connections, but through creative imagination applied to the mining industry. When apartheid ended in 1994, most observers focused on political transformation. Motsepe's imagination saw economic opportunity. The established mining companies were divesting from marginal mines, considering them unprofitable under new labor regulations and increased costs. Where others saw problems, Motsepe's creative imagination saw solutions. Traditional thinking, these mines are no longer profitable under the new regulations. Motsepe's creative imagination, these mines can be profitable with the right management approach, worker ownership structures, and operational efficiencies. Motsepe founded African Rainbow Minerals, ARM, with a completely different philosophy: treat workers as partners, not just labor, focus on safety and community development, not just extraction, build long-term value, not just short-term profits. His imaginative innovations: worker ownership programs that aligned employee interests with company success, community development initiatives that reduce social conflict and operational disruptions, technology investments that improved both safety and productivity, strategic partnerships that provided capital without surrendering control. The result? ARM became one of South Africa's largest mining companies, Motsepe achieved billionaire status, and thousands of African families gained economic empowerment through worker ownership programs. Obama's 2008 presidential victory represented one of the most imaginative political campaigns in American history. While his opponents relied on traditional political strategies, big donors, television advertising, and institutional endorsements, Obama's team imagined entirely new approaches to voter mobilization. Traditional political imagination, synthetic. Combine proven fundraising techniques, established media strategies, and conventional voter outreach methods. Obama's creative imagination. Transform political campaigning into a grassroots movement using technology, community organizing principles, and cultural momentum. Specific innovations born from creative imagination. 1. Microfunding revolution. Instead of relying primarily on large donors, Obama's team imagined millions of Americans contributing small amounts online. They created user-friendly donation platforms, email campaigns that felt personal rather than mass-produced, and merchandise that turned supporters into walking advertisements. Result: Obama raised over $750 million, with the average donation being less than $200. 2. Digital community building. Obama's team imagined supporters as active participants rather than passive recipients of campaign messages. They created online platforms where supporters could organize their own events, recruit their friends, and share personal stories about why they supported Obama. Result: over 3 million active online supporters who organized 200,000 offline events. 3. Cultural integration. Instead of treating politics as separate from popular culture, Obama's team imagined seamless integration with music, sports, and entertainment. They organized concerts, collaborated with celebrities, and created content that felt more like cultural events than political rallies. Result: Obama became the first cool presidential candidate, attracting millions of young voters who had never engaged with politics. How can you translate these Obama strategies and thought process in the African context? Here is a step-by-step guide. The Imagination Development System for African Leaders. Daily imagination exercises. Morning creative session, spend about 20 minutes. 1. Identify one challenge in your industry, community, or personal life. 2. Spend 10 minutes brainstorming impossible solutions, let your mind run wild without practical constraints. 3. Spend 10 minutes identifying which impossible ideas contain seeds of possibility. 4. Record the most promising ideas for further development. Problem reframing practice. Take any current obstacle and ask, what if this problem is actually an opportunity in disguise? Imagine you have unlimited resources, how would you solve this differently? Consider, what would someone from a completely different industry do with this challenge? Future visualization. Spend time each week imagining your industry, community, or field 5 years from now. What technologies, social changes, or economic shifts might create new opportunities? How could you position yourself to benefit from these future changes? Cross-pollination learning. Study success stories from industries completely different from yours. Attend conferences, read books, or watch documentaries outside your field. Ask, how could I apply this approach to my situation? The uncomfortable truth, most people's imagination has been systematically destroyed by educational systems that punish creative thinking and reward conformity. Rekindling your creative imagination requires deliberately practicing the mental exercises that schools discouraged. Here's an assignment I have for you. For the next 30 days, spend 20 minutes each morning engaging in purely creative thinking about one specific challenge you face. Don't worry about practical constraints or immediate implementation. Let your imagination run completely free, then capture the ideas that spark genuine excitement. The sixth law, organized planning, the crystallization of desire into action. The fatal flaw in most African ambitions. Here's the brutal truth that will make you uncomfortable. Africa is not lacking in dreams, visions, or good intentions. What Africa lacks is organized planning, the systematic, methodical, relentless translation of dreams into specific, measurable, time-bound actions. Most people confuse activity with achievement, busyness with productivity, motion with progress. They work hard but not strategically. They exhaust themselves pursuing tactics without strategy, methods without objectives, action without organization. Organized planning is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without it, desire remains fantasy, faith becomes delusion, and knowledge stays theoretical. Dr. Akinwumi Adesina's transformation of African agriculture from subsistence farming to commercial enterprise demonstrates organized planning at its highest level. As president of the African Development Bank and former Nigerian agriculture minister, Adesina didn't just dream of agricultural transformation, he systematically planned and executed it. Here's how Adesina's organized planning and build a framework. Notice his clarity of thought and how he targeted and measured output. Phase 1. Definite major purpose. Transform Africa from a net food importer to a net food exporter within 20 years, creating 100 million jobs and lifting 400 million people out of poverty. Phase 2. Systematic analysis. Adesina spent 2 years analyzing every component of Africa's agricultural value chain. Seed quality and availability. Fertilizer access and pricing. Credit availability for smallholder farmers. Market access and price stability. Technology adoption and training. Post-harvest processing and storage. Phase 3. Strategic planning. Rather than trying to fix everything simultaneously, Adesina organized his approach into specific, sequential phases. Year 1 to 2. Establish agricultural development banks in 20 countries. Year 3 to 5. Launch technology centers providing improved seeds and fertilizer. Year 6 to 10. Build processing facilities and market linkages. Year 11 to 15. Scale successful models across the continent. Year 16 to 20. Achieve net food export status. Phase 4. Execution with measurement. Adesina established specific metrics for each phase. Number of farmers reached with improved inputs. Yield increases per hectare. Jobs created in agricultural value chains. Revenue generated from agricultural exports. Poverty reduction in rural communities. The results of organized planning. Nigeria's rice production increased from 3.7 million tons to 5.8 million tons in 4 years. Over 14 million farmers gained access to improved seeds and fertilizer. Agricultural GDP contribution increased from 24% to 29%. Rural poverty decreased by 15% in targeted areas. Nigeria reduced rice imports by 90%. Folorunsho Alakija became one of Africa's wealthiest women not through luck or connections, but through organized planning applied to Nigeria's oil industry. Her journey from fashion designer to oil mogul demonstrates how systematic planning can transform any starting point into extraordinary success. Here is a breakdown of how Folorunsho Alakija organized herself to achieve her goals. Phase 1. Opportunity Identification, 1993. While others saw Nigeria's oil industry as dominated by international companies and government agencies, Alakija's organized planning process identified a specific opportunity, marginal oil fields that major companies considered unprofitable. Phase 2. Knowledge Acquisition, 1993 to 1996. Before investing significant capital, Alakija systematically acquired specialized knowledge. Oil industry regulations and licensing requirements. Technical aspects of oil exploration and production. Financial structuring of oil ventures. Partnership strategies with international operators. Phase 3. Strategic Partnerships, 1996 to 2000. Alakija organized partnerships that provided capabilities she lacked. Technical expertise through partnerships with experienced oil companies. Financial resources through strategic investor relationships. Regulatory navigation through experienced local partners. Risk mitigation through diversified partnership structures. Phase 4. Systematic Execution, 2000 to 2010. Alakija's organized planning included detailed contingency planning. Multiple backup partners for each critical function. Diversified revenue streams beyond oil production. Reinvestment strategies for sustained growth. Exit strategies for various scenarios. The result? Alakija's oil ventures generated billions in revenue, making her one of Africa's wealthiest individuals and demonstrating how organized planning can overcome initial disadvantages. Here is a step-by-step guide for you to adopt. This is guaranteed to generate success. The Organized Planning Blueprint for African Excellence. Step 1. Define your definite major purpose with precision. What exactly do you want to achieve? Be specific, not general. By when do you want to achieve it? Set deadline dates. How will you measure success? Establish clear metrics. Why is this important to you? Connect to deeper motivation. Step 2. Analyze your current situation ruthlessly. What resources do you currently possess? Assets, skills, relationships, knowledge. What resources do you need but lack? Identify specific gaps. What obstacles will you face? Internal and external challenges. What advantages do you have? Unique strengths or opportunities. Step 3. Develop your strategic plan. Break your major purpose into specific phases or milestones. Identify the critical path, which activities must be completed before others can begin. Allocate your resources, time, money, energy, strategically rather than equally. Create contingency plans for likely obstacles or setbacks. Step 4. Create your execution system. Daily actions that move you toward your objective. Weekly reviews to assess progress and adjust tactics. Monthly evaluations to ensure strategic alignment. Quarterly planning sessions to update your approach based on results. Step 5. Build your success team. Identify people whose cooperation you need for success. Determine what each person wants in exchange for their cooperation. Organize mutually beneficial relationships rather than trying to succeed alone. Create accountability systems that keep everyone focused on results. The uncomfortable truth: most people fail not because they lack dreams or even capabilities, but because they lack organized planning. They confuse wishing with planning, hoping with strategizing, and talking with executing. Your dreams will remain fantasies until you organize them into systematic, measurable, time-bound action plans. What will you do with this knowledge now that you possess it? Here is an assignment I have for you. Take your biggest goal and spend 40 hours over the next 2 weeks creating a detailed, organized plan. If you're not willing to invest 40 hours planning your success, you're not serious about achieving it. The seventh law: decision, the mastery of procrastination. The $1 million difference between decisive and indecisive people. Successive research has shown that successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly, while unsuccessful people make decisions slowly and change them quickly. This single distinction separates the wealthy from the poor, the leaders from the followers, the achievers from the dreamers. But here's what makes this law particularly uncomfortable for us Africans. We have been systematically conditioned to seek external validation before making important decisions. Colonial education taught us to wait for permission, to seek approval from authorities, to doubt our own judgment. This conditioning is killing our potential. In 2013, when Dangote announced his decision to build a $19 billion oil refinery in Nigeria, energy experts around the world called it financial suicide. Nigeria had attempted refinery projects for decades with dismal failure rates. The government had wasted billions on refineries that never worked properly. International oil companies had concluded that Nigeria was too corrupt, too unstable, too complex for successful refining operations. Most entrepreneurs would have spent years studying the market, conducting feasibility studies, seeking government guarantees, and building consensus among stakeholders. But Dangote understood something profound: in rapidly changing markets, the biggest risk is not making a wrong decision, it's making no decision. Here's an insight into Dangote's decision-making process towards the building of the world's largest oil refinery. Day 1 to 30, Rapid Intelligence Gathering. Current refining capacity versus demand analysis. Competitive landscape assessment. Technology options evaluation. Financial modeling scenarios. Day 31 to 60, Stakeholder consultations. Government policy discussions. Technology partner negotiations. Financial institution preliminary talks. Market demand validation. Day 61 to 90, Decision crystallization. Final investment decision made. Implementation timeline established. Resource allocation committed. Public announcement executed. The critical insight: Dangote didn't wait for perfect information or universal approval. He gathered sufficient information, weighed the risks against the potential rewards, and made an irreversible commitment to move forward. The result? The Dangote refinery, completed in 2023, processes 650,000 barrels per day, has eliminated Nigeria's dependence on imported refined products, and created over 100,000 direct and indirect jobs. Herman Mashaba's transformation from poverty to building Black Like Me into one of South Africa's largest hair care companies demonstrates the power of rapid decision-making in entrepreneurial success. Born in a rural South African township during apartheid, Mashaba could have spent years preparing for the perfect moment to start his business. Instead, at age 25, with no formal business training and limited capital, he made a series of rapid decisions that transformed his life. Decision 1. Quit his sales job to focus entirely on his hair care product idea. Decision 2. Invest his entire savings of 30,000 South African rand into product development. Decision 3. Partner with a local chemist to formulate products specifically for African hair. Decision 4. Begin direct sales to hair salons rather than waiting for retail distribution. Decision 5. Hire his first employee and establish systematic sales processes. Here's the uncomfortable truth about Mashaba's decisions. None of them were based on complete information. He didn't know if there was sufficient market demand. He couldn't predict competitive responses. He had no guarantee that his products would succeed. But Mashaba understood a principle that most entrepreneurs never learn. The market provides feedback only to those who enter it, not to those who study it from the sidelines. The result? Black Like Me became one of South Africa's most successful indigenous cosmetics companies, with products in over 3,000 retail outlets and annual revenues exceeding 1 billion South African rand. Obama's 2008 presidential campaign provides a masterclass in decision-making under extreme pressure and uncertainty. Throughout the campaign, Obama faced decisions that could have ended his political career if made incorrectly, yet delay would have been equally fatal. The Jeremiah Wright crisis, March 2008. When videos surfaced of Obama's pastor, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, making inflammatory comments about America, political advisors were divided. Some urged Obama to immediately distance himself from Wright. Others suggested a more measured response. The media demanded immediate action. Traditional political approach. Spend weeks conducting polling, focus groups, and stakeholder consultations before responding. Obama's approach. Made the decision within 48 hours to deliver a major speech on race in America, using the crisis as an opportunity to address deeper issues rather than simply managing the immediate controversy. The result? Obama's A More Perfect Union speech transformed a potential campaign-ending crisis into one of the most praised political addresses in modern American history. The Vice Presidential Selection 2008 decision. Choosing a running mate represents one of the most consequential decisions a presidential candidate makes. Obama faced pressure to select Hillary Clinton, to unite the Democratic Party, or a military veteran, to address foreign policy experience questions, or a candidate from a swing state, to improve electoral prospects. The critical insight. Obama didn't try to satisfy everyone or choose the safe option. He made a strategic decision based on governing requirements rather than campaign considerations, selecting Biden as his vice president for his foreign policy experience and legislative relationships. When the 2008 financial crisis erupted in the final weeks of the campaign, Obama faced a decision that would define his presidency before he was even elected. Should he suspend his campaign, as McCain did? Should he take partisan positions? Should he wait for more information before speaking? Obama's rapid decision. Continue campaigning while demonstrating presidential leadership through measured responses to the crisis. This required making decisions about economic policy positions without complete information about the crisis's scope or duration. The result, Obama's composed, thoughtful responses during the crisis convinced voters that he possessed the temperament necessary for presidential leadership during turbulent times. Here is a decision-making step-by-step guide for you to adopt. The decision-making formula for African leaders. Step 1. Establish decision deadlines. For every important decision you face, set a specific deadline by which you will decide. Most people fail because they allow decisions to drift indefinitely, waiting for perfect information that never comes. Step 2. Gather sufficient, not perfect, information. Collect enough information to make an informed decision, but don't wait for complete certainty. The 80-20th rule applies. You need about 80% of the relevant information to make 90% of your decisions effectively. Step 3. Consult advisors, don't delegate decisions. Seek input from knowledgeable people, but remember that the decision, and its consequences, are yours alone. Don't allow committees to make decisions that you should make individually. Step 4. Make the decision and commit fully. Once you decide, commit completely to making that decision work. Half-hearted implementation of good decisions produces worse results than full commitment to mediocre decisions. Step 5. Execute immediately. Begin implementing your decision immediately, before doubt can creep in or circumstances can change. Quick implementation often creates momentum that makes success more likely. Step 6. Evaluate and adjust. Monitor results regularly and adjust tactics as necessary, but don't second-guess the fundamental decision unless evidence clearly demonstrates it was wrong. I have an uncomfortable decision challenge for you. I want you to identify 3 important decisions you've been avoiding or postponing. Set deadlines for each decision, no more than 30 days from today. Force yourself to decide by those deadlines, even if you don't have perfect information. Because you are still here, still listening, still learning. It means one thing. You belong to the 1%. The few who do not merely start, but finish. The ones who see things through. And for that level of commitment, I have something reserved just for you. A gift. A key. A power only known to those who walk the full path. I give you a bonus, the 8th law. The Mastermind Alliance. The driving force, the secret weapon behind every great achievement. Here's a truth that will shatter your individualistic assumptions. No significant achievement in human history was accomplished by a single person working alone. Every fortune, every empire, Every revolutionary breakthrough emerged from a mastermind alliance, a coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people working toward a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. Yet African culture, corrupted by Western individualism and colonial divide-and-conquer strategies, has convinced us that working in partnership is risky or a weakness, that sharing credit diminishes our achievement, that success is a solo performance. This belief is bankrupting your potential. Aliko Dangote's transformation from a small-scale trader to Africa's richest man wasn't a solo achievement, it was the result of a carefully constructed mastermind alliance that combined complementary skills, resources, and relationships. Dangote's core mastermind alliance. Financial mastermind, strategic partnerships with international banks and development finance institutions that provided capital at scales impossible for individual investors. Technical mastermind, relationships with global engineering firms and technology providers who brought world-class industrial expertise to African projects. Political mastermind, collaborative relationships with government officials across multiple African countries who provided regulatory support and policy alignment. Market mastermind, distribution networks and retail partnerships that could reach consumers across vast African territories. The crucial insight: Dangote didn't try to develop expertise in all these areas himself. Instead, he created a mastermind alliance where each member contributed their strongest capabilities while benefiting from the group's collective power. Example of mastermind synergy: when Dangote decided to build cement plants across Africa, his mastermind alliance enabled simultaneous execution across multiple countries. Financial partners provided $4 billion in coordinated funding. Technical partners delivered proven plant designs and construction management. Political partners facilitated regulatory approvals and infrastructure support. Market partners established distribution networks before plants were completed. The result: Dangote Cement became Africa's largest cement producer, operating in 10 countries with annual capacity exceeding 48 million tons. Mo Ibrahim's telecommunications mastermind, connecting a continent. Mo Ibrahim's creation of Keltel, which became Africa's first multinational telecommunications empire, demonstrates how mastermind alliances can overcome seemingly impossible barriers. When Ibrahim decided to build mobile networks across Africa in the 1990s, he faced obstacles that would have stopped most entrepreneurs. Lack of telecommunications infrastructure. Regulatory complexity across multiple countries. Limited local technical expertise. Insufficient capital markets for large-scale funding. Political instability in several target markets. Ibrahim's mastermind strategy. Global technology mastermind. Partnerships with leading telecommunications equipment manufacturers, Ericsson, Nokia, who provided cutting-edge technology and training. Financial mastermind, relationships with international development finance institutions and private equity firms who understood emerging market opportunities. Local expertise mastermind, alliances with local partners in each target country who provided regulatory knowledge, cultural understanding, and government relationships. Talent development mastermind, systematic programs to train local engineers and managers, creating indigenous technical capabilities. The mastermind multiplication effect. Ibrahim's alliance enabled Keltel to launch operations in 13 African countries simultaneously, something no individual entrepreneur could have accomplished alone. Specific mastermind benefits. Risk sharing. Political and economic risks were distributed across multiple partners. Resource pooling. Combined financial resources exceeded what any single investor could provide. Knowledge integration. Technical expertise was combined with local market knowledge. Accelerated execution. Parallel operations in multiple countries reduced time to market. The result: Keltel served over 24 million customers across Africa and sold to Zain for $3.4 billion in 2005, creating one of the largest exits in African business history. Obama's path to the presidency demonstrates perhaps the most sophisticated mastermind alliance in modern political history. His success wasn't due to individual charisma or speaking ability, it was the result of assembling a mastermind alliance that combined the best talents in multiple disciplines. Obama's Presidential Mastermind Alliance. Strategic Mastermind, David Axelrod. campaign strategy, message development, and media relations expertise that positioned Obama as the candidate of change. Operations Mastermind, David Plouffe. Field organization, voter contact, and campaign management capabilities that built the most effective grassroots operation in political history. Digital Mastermind, Joe Rospars. Online fundraising, social media engagement, and digital organizing that revolutionized political campaigning. Policy Mastermind, multiple advisors. Economic, foreign policy, and domestic policy expertise that enabled Obama to speak authoritatively on complex issues. Coalition Mastermind, various leaders. Relationships with labor unions, minority communities, young people, and progressive organizations that built an unprecedented electoral coalition. Financial Mastermind, Penny Pritzker. Fundraising networks and financial systems that raised over $750 million from 4 million donors. The Mastermind Multiplication Effect. Each member of Obama's Mastermind Alliance brought capabilities that multiplied the effectiveness of the others. Axelrod's messaging plus Rospars' digital platform equals consistent message delivery across multiple channels. Plouffe's field organization plus Pritzker's fundraising equals unprecedented resource deployment in battleground states. Policy expertise plus coalition relationships equals credible positions on issues important to specific voter groups. The result, Obama won 365 electoral votes, carried 28 states, and achieved the highest youth voter turnout in decades, accomplishments impossible without his Mastermind Alliance. Here is a step-by-step guide to build your mastermind. The African Mastermind Blueprint, Building Your Success Alliance. Step 1. Identify your success gaps. What skills, resources, or relationships do you need but lack? What obstacles could be overcome through strategic partnerships? What opportunities require capabilities beyond your individual capacity? Step 2. Map potential mastermind partners. Who possesses the capabilities you need? What do they want that you could provide in exchange? How could your success benefit their interests? Step 3. Structure mutually beneficial relationships. Define specific contributions from each member. Establish clear expectations and accountability measures. Create systems for regular communication and coordination. Design benefit-sharing arrangements that motivate continued participation. Step 4. Activate your Mastermind Alliance. Begin with small, low-risk collaborative projects. Demonstrate the value of working together. Gradually increase the scope and importance of joint initiatives. Celebrate successes and learn from setbacks together. The uncomfortable mastermind truth. Most Africans resist mastermind alliances because of fear of sharing credit, fear of dependence, fear of being taken advantage of. But these fears guarantee continued limitation. Your competitors who embrace mastermind principles will always outperform you, regardless of your individual talents. Here's a mastermind building assignment I have for you. Within the next 30 days, identify 3 people whose cooperation could accelerate your progress toward your major goals. Approach each person with a specific proposal for mutually beneficial collaboration. Don't wait for perfect arrangements, begin building your mastermind alliance immediately. You now possess knowledge that most people will never encounter, principles that can transform any circumstance into extraordinary success. But knowledge without application is worthless. These 7 laws are not interesting theories to discuss, they are practical tools to be used daily, relentlessly, systematically. Here's the uncomfortable truth you must accept: reading this material changes nothing. Understanding these principles means nothing. Even believing them wholeheartedly accomplishes nothing. Only the systematic, daily application of these laws will transform your life. And application is where most people fail. They read books, attend seminars, make plans, and then return to their old habits, old thinking patterns, old comfort zones. They mistake intellectual understanding for transformation, inspiration for implementation, intention for action. You must choose differently. The Mandela example, 27 years of daily application. When Nelson Mandela walked into Robben Island prison in 1964, he could have chosen bitterness, despair, or resignation. Instead, he chose to spend 27 years, yes 27 years, systematically applying these principles under the most challenging circumstances imaginable. Mandela's daily practice of the 7 laws. Burning desire. Every day for 27 years, Mandela maintained his desire for a free, democratic South Africa. This wasn't passive hope, it was active, burning desire that influenced every decision, every relationship, every response to circumstance. Faith. Mandela visualized himself as the president of a free South Africa decades before it seemed possible. He acted with the dignity and wisdom of a president while confined in a prison cell. Autosuggestion. Mandela controlled his internal dialogue, refusing to accept the mental limitations imposed by his physical confinement. He programmed his mind daily with thoughts of leadership, reconciliation, and nation-building. Specialized knowledge. Mandela systematically studied law, history, and political theory. He learned Afrikaans to better understand his captors. He developed expertise in negotiation, conflict resolution, and constitutional design. Imagination. Mandela imagined solutions that others couldn't conceive, a peaceful transition from apartheid to democracy that avoided civil war and maintained economic stability. Organized planning. Even in prison, Mandela organized systematic approaches to achieving his objectives. He built relationships with guards, influenced fellow prisoners, and maintained communication with external liberation movements. Decision. Mandela made rapid decisions about how to respond to changing circumstances, opportunities for negotiation, and strategic choices about the liberation struggle. Mastermind alliance. Mandela built alliances with fellow prisoners, international supporters, and eventually even with his former captors to create the coalition necessary for successful transition. The result, Mandela emerged from prison not as a broken man seeking revenge, but as a leader prepared to guide South Africa through its most challenging transition. His 27 years of systematic personal development while imprisoned enabled him to become one of history's greatest leaders. Moment of truth. Here is your uncomfortable assignment which will prove to you and no one else how serious you want to change your life. The 90-Day Transformation Challenge. I challenge you to prove these principles in your own life through systematic application over the next 90 days. This is not a casual experiment, it requires the same commitment you would make to military training or medical school. Days 1 to 30, Foundation Building. Week 1, define your definite major purpose with absolute clarity. Week 2, develop and begin practicing your daily auto-suggestion routine. Week 3, identify and begin acquiring the specialized knowledge you need. Week 4, create your organized plan for achieving your major purpose. Days 31 to 60, skill development. Week 5 to 6, practice creative imagination exercises daily. Week 7 to 8, begin making rapid decisions on postponed choices. Week 9 to 10, start building your mastermind alliance relationships. Day 61 to 90, integration and acceleration. Week 11 to 12, integrate all 7 principles into daily practice. Week 13, evaluate results and adjust your approach for maximum effectiveness. Daily requirements, non-negotiable. Morning, 30 minutes of mental conditioning, auto-suggestion, visualization, planning. Midday, 15 minutes reviewing progress and making necessary adjustments. Evening, 15 minutes reflecting on lessons learned and preparing for tomorrow. Weekly requirements. Sunday, 2 hours of organized planning and progress evaluation. Wednesday, 1 hour studying specialized knowledge in your field. Friday, 30 minutes developing mastermind alliance relationships. The uncomfortable promise and warning. The promise, if you systematically apply these 7 principles for 90 consecutive days, not casually, not intermittently, but with the discipline of a professional athlete, you will experience transformation that others will call miraculous. Your circumstances will change, your opportunities will multiply, and your capabilities will expand beyond your current imagination. The warning, if you read this material and return to your old habits, old thinking patterns, and old comfort zones, you will be worse off than before. Knowledge without application creates frustration. Understanding without implementation breeds cynicism. Inspiration without action leads to deeper disappointment. You cannot unknow what you now know. You cannot pretend these principles don't work. You cannot claim ignorance as an excuse for continued limitation. The final uncomfortable truth. Africa doesn't need more dreamers. We have enough visionaries, enough inspirational speakers, enough people who talk about what could be possible. What Africa desperately needs is more people who systematically apply proven principles of success until they create breakthrough results that others can follow. You have been chosen, not by accident, not by luck, but by your willingness to encounter these principles, to become one of those people. The ancestors didn't endure slavery so you could remain comfortable in limitation. They didn't fight colonialism so you could accept mental servitude. They didn't sacrifice their lives so you could waste your potential on excuses, complaints, and small thinking. You were born for greatness. You were designed for impact. You were created to build, to lead, to transform. But greatness is not a gift, it's a choice. Impact is not an accident, it's a decision. Transformation is not something that happens to you, it's something you create through daily application of these immutable laws. The question is not whether these principles work, they have worked for thousands of people across every continent, in every industry, under every circumstance. The question is whether you will work them. The choice is yours. The time is now. The world is waiting. You were not born to bow. You were not born to break. You were most certainly not born to beg. You were born to build. You were born to command. You were born to conquer. Now prove it. An African proverb states, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Begin today. Begin now. Begin with the systematic application of these 7 laws, and in 90 days, you will have planted a tree of success that will provide shade for generations to come. Your transformation starts with your next decision. Make it count.
Wow. Congratulations. That was powerful. You have endured the fire. You have confronted truths that shattered illusions, dismantled excuses, and exposed the raw machinery of greatness. But this is not the end, this is your beginning. You now hold 7 immutable laws, the same laws that built pyramids, birthed empires, and forged billionaires. These are not theories to debate, they are weapons to wield. The question is, will you? The challenge. Return to these words. Read them daily until they rewrite your DNA. Let them scorch away mediocrity. Share relentlessly. This knowledge is not yours to hoard. Spread it like wildfire. Arm your brothers, sisters, and children with these laws. Act with surgical precision. Knowledge unapplied is self-deception. Your assignment. Morning, 30 minutes of mental programming, visualization, affirmation, planning. Day, 1 decisive action that terrifies you. Night, audit your progress. No excuses. The world is littered with corpses of unrealized potential, people who knew but did not do. Will you join them? Or will you join the lineage of Dangote, Mandela, and Maathai, those who applied, endured, and conquered? Africa's renaissance will not be televised. It will be fought in the trenches of your mind, the sweat of your labor, the steel of your decisions. You are either a builder or a bystander. Choose. Your ancestors whisper. Your descendants watch. History records. Now, move. Timbuktu Lectures is a production of Kilimanjaro News Network, the authentic voice of Africa, broadcasting Africa's rebirth in Swahili, Arabic, Hausa, English, and French. Like, share, and join the revolution. The next chapter is yours to write.